طيب الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب وجعل فيه هدى والنور وجعل فيه الهدى والنور والشفاء لما في الصدور وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله البشير والنذير وسراج منير صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه الذين تعلموا القرآن وتدبروه وعملوا بما فيه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow this to be a benefit not only for the speaker but for those who are listening, and may He correct and straighten our tongues and make this be something that is established to seek His face and His face only. Tonight, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala, we are going to have a discussion about the notebook. You will learn why we call it this title anyway, but about the notebook of Imam Abdul Rahman al-Sa'di or Abdul Rahman al-Sa'di. Kilahuma sahih. Either way is both permissible to say his name, either Sa'di or Sa'di, that he had for Ramadan. And it's no doubt and there's no mystery that Ramadan, alhamdulillah, is fastly approaching and is right around the corner. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us and you to be amongst those who reach Ramadan. Ameen. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وهدى من وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. In the Quran, Allah Jalla wa Ala says شهر Ramadan, that the month of Ramadan wherein the Quran was revealed. Shahr Ramadan, as Ibn Qurtubi said, that the word Ramadan comes from the word Ramad, meaning to burn something. Alright? But the month of Ramadan wherein the Quran was revealed. Alright? As a huda, a guidance for the people. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى وَفُرْقَانٍ. And clear evidence from that, clear evidence of guidance, as well as a furqan, a distinction between haqq wal batil, between nafit wal dar, between beneficial, as between truth and falsehood, and between that which is beneficial and that which is harmful, and many other things. Alhamdulillah. Before we begin, we want to talk about, this is not a topic about Ramadan, so we're not going to go into Ramadan heavy, tayyib, but we are going to mention something that's pertaining to this, specifically to Ramadan, and that is the state of the Salaf in regards to approaching Ramadan. Sheikh Salih Fawzan Hafidhullah, he was asked about what was the state of the condition of the Salaf when they would approach Ramadan and Ramadan would be facing them. What would they do? What are some of the things that we can take from the actions of the Salaf and what they would actually do? He responded by saying, he said, حالة السلف في شهر رمضان حالة السلف كما هو مدون في كتب المروية بأسانيد الثقات. He first said the condition of the Salaf, as it has been reported in the books that has the books of narrations, as well as those trustworthy chains, which is called asanid, which is the plural for isnad. He says, أنهم كانوا يسألون الله عز وجل أن يبلغهم رمضان قبل أن يدخل. Pay attention now. That the thing that they would do, as is reported about them, that they would make dua. And what was the dua? They will ask Allah, or Allah, allow us to reach the month of Ramadan before it enter. They will offer dua to Allah Azza wa Jalla, or Allah, allow us to reach Ramadan before it enter. This is from their actions. He says, يسألون الله أن يبلغهم شهر رمضان لما يعلمون فيه من الخير العظيم ونفع العميم. And they will ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to allow them to reach this month because they knew of the good that was contained within it. It was abundance and tremendous amount of good that they knew. Also, they knew that the benefit, the general benefit that was contained within this month. He says, ثم إذا ذكر رمضان. Now pay attention to this is important. He said then, when they would actually reach Ramadan, then they would ask Allah Jalla wa Ala and yu'eenahum, to assist them, ala amal salih, fihi, aid them and support them and able to carry out righteous actions within that month. ثم إذا انتهى رمضان يسألون الله يتقبله منهم. Pay attention now. And then when they reach the end of Ramadan, they will also make dua again. And the dua they will make at the end is that they ask Allah Azza wa Jal, oh Allah, accept the actions from us. Now, there's three things we need to take in consideration. The Salaf, they used to do three things, and three of them contain a dua. Before Ramadan, they would make dua that Allah allowed them to reach it. When they reach Ramadan, they would make dua that Allah is aid them and give them support and be able to carry out righteous actions within it. And the third thing they would do if they reach the end of Ramadan is they would ask Allah to accept the actions that they put forth in the month of Ramadan. This is tremendous. And our approach and the way that we deal with Ramadan, this is what we should be doing. So for Ramadan, our preparation that we're making for it, let's make the dua to Allah that Allah make us amongst them. Ameen. And when we reach it, let's ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to aid us, because this contains within it to show us that what? We cannot do an act of ibadah. We cannot do anything except that we need Allah Azza wa Jalla aid. As you've seen this, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. That's what the ayat actually contains, and this is what you see them doing. They will ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to aid them. But look what Sheikh Salih Fawzan is going to say at the end. When they reach the end, they will ask Allah to accept their actions. Why though? Pay attention to the hikmah for this. He says, كَمَا قَالَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. He said, this is as Allah Jalla wa Ala said. He says, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْتُونَ مَا أَتَوْا وَقُلُوبُهُمْ وَجِلَةٌ أَنَّهُمْ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ رَاجِعُونَ. Allah described in Surah Al-Mu'minun the characteristics of the believers. And he mentioned one of the characteristics of the believers. He said, those who give, meaning they give charity, they give sadaqah. مَا أَتَوْا وَقُلُوبُهُمْ وَجِلَةٌ. And they given the whole time while they are afraid. They're given while their hearts are afraid. What are they afraid of? أَنَّهُمْ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ رَاجِعُونَ. And they know that they're going to be returned back to Allah Azza wa Jalla. أُولَٰئِكَ يُسَارِعُونَ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ وَهُمْ لَهَا سَابِقُونَ. And they are, Allah says in the next verse, these are those who are first foremost in doing good deeds, and they are those who are the first and foremost from the sabiqun. وَكَانَ يَجْتَهِدُونَ فِي الْعَمَلِ ثُمَّ يُصِيبُهُمْ هَمٌّ بَعْدَ عَمَلٍ هَلْ يَقْبَلْ أَوْ لَا يَقْبَلْ. Pay attention now. This is how we be able to distinguish between when we're doing something for riyah or something doing for Allah. This is that distinguishing factor here. He's given us a tremendous benefit. If you want to know if you're doing something for riyah, to be seen, sum'ah, to be heard amongst the people, or to any of that, all you have to do is realize, what is your state after you do the action? What is your state? Are you worrying about whether or not the action you have done will be accepted or not? If you're not worrying about whether or not it'll be accepted or not, it's 9 times out of 10, you weren't sincere, and it might contain some riyah in it. Because your concern is not the act itself, but your concern is whether or not the act can be accepted. So here he's saying that you will find that they were diligent. They were diligent in doing what? In doing actions. And when they carry out the actions, then it would, what happened? You see with Muhammad, they would become like sad. They would become worried. They would be afflicted with worry. Why is they worrying? Because they're worrying whether or not their action that they have put forth, whether it's going to be accepted or not. And this is why you go back to the verse, Allah Jalla wa Ala says about them, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْتُونَ, those who give, مَا أَتَوْا وَقُلُوبُهُمْ وَجِلَةٌ, while their hearts are afraid. There's a hadith that is mentioned that Aisha radiallahu anha, she asked the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is this verse talking about the people who commit, who steal, who commit zina, and drink, etc., and abandon the prayers? He said, la. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, this, or Bint Siddiq, he said, rather, this is about the believers, those who pray, those who fast, etc. But they do these deeds with being fear that Allah doesn't accept it from them. Tayyib. He says, وَذَلِكَ لِعِلْمِهِ, and all of this is based off of their knowledge of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And their knowledge that Allah does not, now pay attention, this is get deep, that Allah does not accept any action except that action is sincerely done for His face and is in conformity that of His sunnah of His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam min a'mal. فَكَانُوا لَا يُزَكُّونَ أَنفُسَهُم. Look at the scale here. So they were not those who used to purify themselves. They wasn't amazed with themselves. They were not those who were takalluf. They didn't look at me, y'all, I'm doing this. You see, I did this, I did that, I did that. And then they got an air of superiority with themselves. It wasn't like that. Because they knew that the final decision of whatever act they were doing in the first place wasn't up to them to be accepted. They knew it was by Allah Azza wa Jalla. So they wasn't like that. Rather, what they was afraid of and what they were concerned with is that the action that they put forth would be nullified. فهم لها أن تقبل أشد منهم تبعا في أدائها لأن الله جل يقول إنما يتقبل الله من المتقين. And this is a verse that will make all of us afraid. We ask Allah Jalla wa'ala to make us from the muttaqeen, ameen. And they will be worrying about whether or not taqabbala ashadda minhum, meaning that because for the deed to be accepted from them, they will tire themselves out in carrying out its obligation, because Allah Jalla wa'ala, He says that Allah only accepts the actions from those who have taqwa. إنما الله يتقبل وإنما يتقبل الله من المتقين. That Allah only accepts the action from those who have taqwa. وكانوا يتفرغون في هذا الشهر كما أسلفنا لعباده وتقللون من أعمال الدنيا وكانوا يوفرون وقت الجلوس في بيوت الله عز وجل ويقولون نحفظ صومنا ولا نغتاب أحدا ويحضرون المصاحف ويتدارسون. And He said about them, He said also what they used to do is they would set a time. And this is something that we don't do because for some reason or another, we don't make good preparation. The Salaf will prepare for Ramadan 6 months in advance. 6 months in advance. And a lot of us don't make good preparation, myself included. 6 months in advance, they're already preparing for Ramadan. What does that mean? That means that they're going to free up their time financially. They're going to free up their time with their bills and everything else that they have. And they're going to make sure that they can isolate themselves within that month to leave it for devotion of worship. But many of us, we can't do that. Many of us did not prepare well in the coming months before Ramadan. So then when Ramadan come in, we are stacked with bills, we are stacked with concerns, we are stacked with the dunya and distractions. So we cannot concentrate so much on a devotion. So He said, يَتَفَرَّغُونَ. What they used to do is they used to make that time. That time was prepared 6 months ago. You understand that? That time was prepared 6 months ago. They were making the time so they can free themselves up so that they can be able to worship Allah Jalla wa'ala. He says, just as aslafna al-ibadah. Okay, as our salaf, what they would do is they free themselves up in that month so that they can dedicate themselves to worship. وَتَقَلِّلُونَ مِنْ أَعْمَالِ الدُّنْيا. And they used to not do so much, they used to do less work in regards to the world. See, they were freed up because they didn't have to worry about doing so much work for the world. وَكَانُوا يُوفِرُونَ وَقْتَ الْجُلُوسِ فِي بُيُوتِ اللَّهِ. And they will fulfill their time with sitting in the houses of Allah Azza wa Jalla. During the month of Ramadan, anyone can attest to this, the houses of Allah are packed. This is the time where Allah Jalla wa Ala will make the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala super packed. Right? So they will spend their times in the bayt of Allah. But look what they would say. They didn't just sit in the bayt of Allah Azza wa Jalla talking about the sports, talking about their job, talking about their wife, talking about their husband. They wouldn't sit in the masjid just for that. Look what they would say. They would sit in the masjid, and there was a reason why they went to the masjid, because the masjid was an actual shelter for them from the distraction of the world. So they didn't go to the dunya, to the masjid, and brought the dunya into the masjid. Not like how we do nowadays. Wallahi tallahi, it's a sad state. You see people go inside the masjid, in the musalla area, they're bumping the music. They're playing music in the masjid. They're singing, they're rapping, they're tuning, they're doing whatever they want to do in the masjid. Right? So you see narrations where it mentioned that only the people who pretty much don't have any iman will be sitting in the masjid, and you can see how this is actually coming to fruition, because you're looking at people like, subhanAllah, in the masjid, this is what the Salaf would do. They will run to the masjid. Why? Because it was a protection from the distractions of the dunya, so they can devote themselves to Allah during the month of Ramadan. Right? Look what they would do. They would say, يَقُولُونَ نَحْفَظُ صَوْمَنَا. They would say, let us guard and protect our fast. وَلَا نَكْتَابَ أَحَدًا. And do not let us backbite anyone. وَيَحْضَرُونَ مُصَاحِفٍ. And they will bring with them the Quran, the Musahif. وَيَتَدَارَسُونَ. They will not just recite. Look what he just said. يَتَدَارَسُونَ. It comes into the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, what? It's not a group of people. وَمَا قَوْمٍ مِنْ بَيْتٍ مِنْ بُيُوتِ اللَّهِ. It's not a group of people who, وَمَا قَوْمٍ يَجْلُسُ. It's not a group of people who sit and from the houses of Allah. It comes to Sahih Muslim. and that you find them reciting the book of Allah and studying it amongst themselves. وَتَدَرَّسُونَ They will study the book of Allah Azza wa Jal. كَانُوا يَحْفَظُونَ أَوْقَاتُهُم مِنَ الضِّيَاعِ And they will preserve their time from wasting it. So I ask you, because I don't want to be too long, I want to go into tonight's talk. I ask you right now, just based off what we just covered, how many of us in our Ramadan even resemble something remotely like this? Were we concerned about the dua? Did we make any preparation for Ramadan? All of these are telltale signs on how your Ramadan is going to be, by the way. How your Ramadan is going to be is how you approach it. The same way your salat. A lot of people don't even think about it. Why is the wudu so essential? Not just the fact that you need to clean yourself as the miftah for salat, that you need to clean yourself because you're preparing for Allah, but why is the wudu so essential? Why is it that when you make wudu, you have to make it so well? You ever thought about that? Why is it? Your wudu and the way that you perform it is going to show your performance with the prayer. If you guard your wudu and you make it like the Prophet ﷺ said, and you take your time with it, it shows that you're going to enter the prayer with the key, and you're going to be concerned just like you were concerned with the wudu with the prayer. That's the same thing with Ramadan. If you're concerned with Ramadan, you're going to do these preparations that they have done. You understand? It's going to give you a key telltale sign how your Ramadan is going to go. Right? Pay attention to this. It's important. He says here, at the end of this, he says, ما كانوا يحملون أو يفرطون كما عليه حال كثير يوم. May Allah protect us and me from this, because, you know, we see this, and I've been an Imam for 8 years, and you do see this a lot. A lot of people have a high raqbah when it comes to Ramadan. The first 5 days or 7 days, or even the first 10, let's give them that much. People high, get it in the expirations, and then it dies out, and they try to pick back up during the last 10 nights. So he says what happened is, unlike many people who cause the time to be wasted, and they're negligent and concerned to their worship in the month of Ramadan, because the month of Ramadan is a month of worship. Do you understand? It's not a month of work. That's why you make the 6 months preparation. It's a month of worship. All right? It's not a month of work. I'm not saying that you can't work during Ramadan. You can. We're not saying that you can't. But you should have been making yourself prepared for this month so that you can devote yourself to Allah. Henceforth, why i'tikaf? The Prophet ﷺ used to start the i'tikaf in the first 10 nights, the first 10 days of Ramadan, not the last 10 nights. The only reason why he switched it to the last 10 is because of the hadith of the Laylatul Qadr being coming, alhamdulillah, and that's why I switched to the last 10. But he used to offer the i'tikaf in the first 10. You understand? Making that devotion to Allah. He said, or يفرطون كما عليه حال كثير يوم بل كانوا يحفظون أوقاته الليل في القيام والنهار بالصيام وتلاوة القرآن وذكر الله أعلم خير ما كانوا يفرطون في دقيقة منه أو في لحظة منه إلا ويقدمون فيها عملا صالحا. So, unlike many of the people today, what they do, they don't preserve their time so much like for the night and standing, and the day in fasting and reciting the book of Allah, remembering Allah, and doing acts of good. ما كانوا يفرطون في دقيق. They don't make that time as they supposed to in regards to the minuted details from it, or anything from it, يقدمون فيها عملا صالحا, so they can put forth righteous actions. Alhamdulillah, that's what we wanted to bring about Ramadan, and we're going to tonight's talk. Why did we call this talk the notebook of Imam Sa'di? Wallahi, tallahi, wallahi, this is something new to me, and I didn't even know nothing about this, and I never practiced this in Ramadan in my life, but maybe inshallah ta'ala this Ramadan I will, and hopefully you all too will begin to benefit from this. Tayyib, Imam Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, in this famous poem, which we all know as Nuniyah, he have a line of poetry that he says, فَتَدَبَّرِ الْقُرْآنَ إِنْ رُمْتَ الْهُدَى فَالْعِلْمُ تَحْتَ فَعِلْمُ تَحْتَ تَدَبُّرِ الْقُرْآنِ. In this line of poetry, he says, فَتَدَبَّرُ الْقُرْآنِ, reflect on the Quran. We all heard this before, right? He says, إِمْ رُمْتَ الْهُدَى. If you want guidance, if you want to be guided, if you want some type of clarity, some type of direction, some type of seeing, then what you want to do is you want to reflect on the Quran. He said, فَتَدَبَّرُ الْقُرْآنِ, right? إِمْ رُمْتَ الْهُدَى, if you want guidance. He says, فَالْعِلْمُ, now pay attention to this now. He says, because knowledge, تَحْتَ تَدَبُّرُ الْقُرْآنِ, you're going to find knowledge under reflecting on the Quran. That's where you're going to find the knowledge at. Now, Ibn al-Qayyim didn't just say this out of the blue. Okay? Ibn al-Qayyim didn't just make this up, even though he came up with this line of poetry. He took this from somewhere. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. In Surah An-Nisa, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, do they not ponder? Do they not think deeply? Do they not reflect on the Quran? Have it been from other than Allah, they would have found many contradictions therein. Allah says, أَفَلَمْ يَدَبَّرُوا الْقَوْلِ أَمْ جَاءَهُمْ مَا لَمْ يَأْتِ آبَاءَهُمُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. In Surah Mu'minun, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, do they not reflect upon the statement? Here the statement is referring to what? The statement, the Quran. Do they not think deeply about the Quran? Or have there not come to them, أَمْ جَاءَهُمْ مَا لَمْ يَأْتِ, that which not come to their forefathers of old? Allah also says, كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مُبَارَكٌ لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ وَلِيَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. In Surah As-Sa'd, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, a book, talking about the Quran, أَنزَلْنَاهُ, that we have sent down, which shows that Allah is up, is ulu, that He's high, okay, He's above. That's a whole nother different topic. But anyway, Allah sent down the book. Mubarakun, right? That it is blessed. But why did He send it down? He used the lam ta'lil, liyadabbaru, in order that all of us reflect upon and think deeply of its verses. Liyadabbaru ayatihi, that you can reflect on its verses or reflect on His verses, meaning the verses of Allah Azza wa Jalla, from the book of the Quran. He said, وَلِيَتَذَكَّرَ, and also that ulul albab, men of understanding, here women are included, men and women of understanding are those who would take ammunition from it. There are those who want to take ammunition from it. Last but not least, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says in Surah Muhammad, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Allah Azza wa Jalla also says, He said, do they not reflect or think deeply about the Quran, or is there a lock placed on their hearts? So in these 4 verses, we can see the what? The topic of reflecting upon the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and that this is something that is true. So Imam Ibn al-Qayyim in this line of poetry, he did not just take it from anywhere. He took it from the book of Allah, as you see the verses of there. Shaykh Imam, Rahmه Allah ta'ala alayh, he commented on this tremendous line of poetry. The first thing he says, he said, هَذَا بَيْتٌ عَظِيمٌ. He said, this line of poetry is tremendous, no doubt. And we just sing that from the Quran itself. It's not only tremendous, not the fact that you have to reflect on the Quran, but he also said in this verse that if you want to ascertain guidance, then you need to reflect on the Quran, and that all knowledge that you're searching for is going to be under that reflection of the Quran. That's why it's tremendous. He says, يَنْبَغِي يَحْفَظُهُ الْإِنسَانِ, that it is befitting that a person, meaning us, or people that comes across this line of poetry, should memorize it. وَيَمِرُّهُ عَلَى قَلْبِهِ دَائِمًا, and you should constantly go over it and review it in your heart. Constantly reflect on it. فَتَدَبَّرُ الْقُرْآنِ إِن رُمْتَ هُدَى. Right? He says, فَالْعِلْمُ تَحْتَ تَدَبُّرِ الْقُرْآنِ. Okay? So he says here, this line of poetry is saying, if you want to be guided, then reflect on the book of Allah. Don't be hasty. Don't rush. Don't do like some of us do. We open up the Noble. We're looking for one thing. Okay, we found it. Or we read a couple of pages and we understand nothing that we read. Or pretty much, we don't take our time out to learn. So we just read it. Or we're looking for something to refute somebody else, because it's going to get into that. Or just to support this, to support that. Nah. He says, don't hate, don't move in haste. وَلَا تَقْفُرْ. Don't be heedless when you're reading the Quran. You're absent-minded. The whole time you're thinking about the dunya, or thinking about what you got to do, or this or that, while the Quran is doing. And a lot of us get in the habit of doing that. And I want to give us some beneficial advice. Just because you're playing the Qari, reciting the Quran, it is on the mustami'. I want you to pay attention now. It is on the person who plays that cassette, who plays that audio, who plays that YouTube video. While you're in your house cleaning, and you got the Quran playing in the background, if you're the one that put that on, then it's on you to pay attention to what's being said. You understand that? It's on you to pay attention to what's being said. And it's not permissible to talk over the Quran. for you, the one that placed it on. Okay? And when it comes to the time of the Quran being recited, there are three types of people. There is the one who is the qari, the reciter. There's the one who's the mustami'. There's the one who's listening. And then there's the one who's passing by. The one who's passing by is not obligated like the one who is listening. Okay? Henceforth, I'll give you an example. If you're on the Ave and you're playing the Quran, somebody come by playing the Quran in their car, all right, and you're on the avenue, you don't have to stop and listen to the Quran because it's being played. Why? Because you are not the one who played it, nor you're the listener. You are passerby. Do you understand? That becomes clear. So when you listen to the Quran in your house while you're cleaning and stuff like that, try to tune your ear. Read about the Quran. If you don't know Arabic, read about that surah before you put it on. If you're putting it on for the reason of ta'aleem or memorize, tahfidh, to memorize, la bas. But always keep your ears open if you're the one who playing the Quran. Don't be heedless is what he's saying. Wala takfu. Don't listen to the Quran and you be heedless. You're absent-minded. Your heart nor your ears is not there. He says, وَأَكْتَرُ النَّاسُ يَوْمَ يَقْرَؤُونَ الْقُرْآنَ إِمَّا لِأَجْلِ بِتِلَاوَاتِهِ. Another benefit he's going to give us. He said, many of the people today, you find when they read the book of Allah, they either doing it so that they can ascertain the reward of just reciting the book of Allah. You might say, nothing wrong with that. You get a reward for reciting the book of Allah. That's best, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But some people, this is why they might recite the Quran. Okay, I want to recite the Quran so I can only get the reward. All right? He says, وَإِمَّا, or they might recite the Quran to seek some type of blessings from it. He says, وَلَكِنْ أَكْثَرُهُمْ لَا يَقْرَؤُونَ تَدَبُّرًا. However, many of them do not recite the Quran to ponder, to think about the Quran. The Quran praises itself in multiple different places. The Quran boasts of it being the guidance and the best suitable book for mankind. The Quran challenges many people to try to produce surah, ayat, anything like it. If this book is doing all of that, then how are you and I going to come across and open it and not really study it? Huh? How are we not going to open it? How are we not going to study it? How are we not going to take it seriously? So don't let your heart be heedless. He says, وَلِهَذَا حُرِّمُ فَائِدَتُهُ. And this is the point. If you don't reflect on the book of Allah, you're going to be prevented from its benefits. And what good of it if you open up the book of Allah and you're not able to take nothing away from it? You're going to be prohibited. You're going to be prevented from ascertaining its benefit. وَإِلَّا فَقُرْآنُ كَنْزٌ عَظِيمٌ. Nonetheless, the Quran is a tremendous treasure. Right? لِأَنَّهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. Because it's from Allah Azza wa Jalla. He says, وَلَا يُحِيطُ بِأَحَدٌ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And no one can encompass all of its knowledge except Allah Azza wa Jalla. He says, فَهُوَ كَنْزٌ كُنُوزٌ فِي الْوَاقِعِ. So really it is like the treasure of all treasures. Pretty much. That's basically what he's saying. لَوْ أَنَّكَ إِذَا مَشِيتَ. Now, this is where he brings a beautiful benefit pertaining to, we're going to get to the title, inshallah. He said, if you were walking from your house and you were going to the masjid, right? For example, and you was to take one verse. He said, I'm trying to memorize this verse today. Or I'm going over this verse from the book. And you was going to reflect on that verse just from your time of walking from your home or walking from your job or walking from wherever you was at just to get to the masjid. If you were going to reflect on that verse, truly ponder on that verse, he said, لَحَصَلْتَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. You would be able to ascertain much benefit. Along with that also, Allah, if Allah was to open for you, meaning like in the earliest stages, okay, or the beginning of the thing, like soon when you start to begin to go over that verse, things that start clicking for you. This makes sense. This is this, and you get all of this wisdom from it, right? He says, then you don't rely just on your memory alone. You reflect on the Quran, for example. Every time Allah opened up for you something, you write it down, okay? Every time something come new, I got this from it, what you're going to do is write it down and you're going to put it in your pocket. See why he says this. He says because in reality what's going to happen is the Quran knows to move like this. You can easily forget. You don't want to try to tell yourself I got this benefit and it's going to stick with me. No. You want to have something that you can do muraja. You want to review. All right? He says for this reason some of the people of knowledge. I never really knew this, but pay attention. He said, for this reason, some of the people of knowledge during the month of Ramadan, what they would do during the time of reciting the Quran, they will carry along with them a notebook or a pad or a small little book. Why? Specifically, daftar khassa. They would get a notebook specifically for Ramadan. What do you think this notebook was for? What would they have a notebook for? He says, every time they read something from the book of Allah, they would stop at the ayat. They would write down what they got from the book of Allah. If it had many meanings or anything similar to that, they will place it inside this notebook. So when they leave the month of Ramadan, or when they exit the month of Ramadan, what would they have with them? Many benefits if they're able to reflect, if they was really reflecting. And you should be reflecting, because the month of Ramadan is what? We just recited earlier. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. The month of Ramadan is the month in where the Quran is revealed. Imam Shafi was known to say that he wasn't reading no ahadith. He wasn't reading any of the ahadith of the Messenger of Allah. He was focusing only on the book of Allah. If the month of Ramadan is not the time that you become familiar, if the Quran doesn't become your friend in the month of Ramadan, you have been cheated. There's some knocks there. If you're not seeking a closeness to the book of Allah during the month of Ramadan, that should be your main objective in the month of Ramadan. Read the book of Allah, right? So he's saying, okay, if you're going to read, then reflect. Because ain't no sense, we already quote the verses to you. Allah Jalla wa'ala said, Kitabun anzalnahu mubarakun liyadabbaru ayat. Allah sent down this book, a blessed book, so that what? You can reflect on this ayat. So why would you not reflect on it? Reflect on it. So now he says, وَلَقَدْ رَأَيْتُ كُتُبَيٍّ صَغِيرًا للشيخ عبد الرحمن السعدي رحمه الله يقول إنه كتب في رمضان وهو يقرأ القرآن تمر به آية فيقف عندها ويتدبرها ويكتب عليها فوعد لا تجدها في أي تفسير. الله أكبر. He says, so for this reason I witnessed my sheikh, and you know he's talking about his sheikh, because Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen is the student of Abdul Rahman al-Sa'di. He said, I witnessed that he would carry with him a small book, a notebook. And he said about this book, it is my book that I write in it for the month of Ramadan. It's specifically only for Ramadan. And he used it while he recite the Quran. When he come across an ayat, he'll stop, reflect on it, write down what he got from it, and he'll write down the benefits that he took from it. And he says that the benefits which he could not found in any of tafsir, fi ayyi tafsir. And there's no wonder why Abdul Rahman al-Sa'di, he has what? He has one of the famous tafsirs out there today. Right? Think about it. He's a mufassir. And you would say how he achieved this state. Look what he was doing. He was taking down the benefits that he took from during the month of Ramadan. He just took a small notebook. Imagine you take a small notebook with you during the month of Ramadan, and you just write down benefits. But most of us are not even reading the book of Allah, let alone to try to write down some benefits. Look how it led. Now we got a great tafsir. I'm not saying that from them notes it's his tafsir, but think about it. He's a mufassir. Even Shaykh Uthaymeen rahmatullah himself, he do have a tafsir of the whole Quran. All of it is not in print form, but he do have the tafsir of the whole Quran. Look at these, all of these ulama, they became mufassirun, people who have explanations to the book of Allah. I mean, that's a high station. Do you know that? There's a lot of stuff you need in order to give tafsir to the Quran, but I'm just saying, it's a high station. He said for this reason, and he ain't even done, and we're going to end this up, but he's going to mention something at the end, something very important. He says, for this reason, Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he encouraged the reflecting upon the book of Allah for the one who wants to be guided. For the one who wants to be guided, he will encourage in that line of poetry. And his sheikh, and I shouldn't have to say his name, who's the sheikh of Ibn Qayyim, everyone should know this, it's Ibn Taymiyyah, right? Rahmatullah ta'ala. He said, من تدبر القرآن طالبا. This is the statement of Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah. من تدبر القرآن طالبا. He's given two conditions here. Pay attention to him. للهدى منه تبين له طريق الحق. It's similar to what the line of poetry Ibn Qayyim said. He says, and this you can look in the Aqidah Wasatiyah for this statement. He says, whoever reflects on the Quran, طالبا للهدى, meaning he's reflecting on the Quran, seeking to be guided from it. He says, تبين له طريق الحق. The truth will be clarified to him. If he reflects on the Quran, seeking from it guidance, to be guided from it, then the truth will be made known to him. Don't say I went and searched in the book of Allah and you don't have these conditions. All right? Shaykh Uthaymeen will explain. Don't say I went and looked for the issue in the book of Allah and I didn't find it. All right? If you went in with these conditions, you're going to find the benefit. Pay attention. He says, فاشترط الشيخ الإسلام رحمه الله شرطين. He says, so Shaykh Islam رحمة الله تعالى عليه, he mentioned two conditions. The first one is tadabbur, reflecting or reflection. وطلب هدى, and seeking guidance. لأنه ربما تدبر ولم يقصد طلب هدى. He said it's possible a person can be reflecting, but yet a person can be reflecting, but it's possible what? that because it's possible he can reflect it, وَلَمْ يَقْصُدْ طَلَبَ هُدَى, but he doesn't intend with it to get any guidance. He might be reflecting on the book of Allah, but he's not really seeking to get any guidance from it. لكن يريد معرفة معاني القرآن فقط. Meaning he might only be doing it so that he can understand some meanings from the Quran. He says, مَا تُرِيدُ تَهْدِي بِهِ. He don't seek to be guided by it. وَتَجْعَلُهُ نِبْرَاسًا لَكَ تَسِيرُ عَلَيْهِ. فإذا تدبرته وأنت تريد هدى منه وتريد أن تجعل القرآن نبراسا, he said نبراسا لك تسير عليه تبين لك طريق حق. So he said, in other words, if you truly want to be guided from it, then you're going to do those two conditions that must be done. Meaning you must reflect on it. That's number one. If you're looking for the guidance from it, and you must be seeking guidance. So you must reflect on it and you must seek guidance. All right. Don't just reflect and not seek guidance. Reflect and seek guidance from it. He says, أما الذي تدبر القرآن لينصر به قوله فهذا على خاطر عظيم والعياذ بالله. Pay attention to this statement. How many of us today, whether it's wife, husband, whether it's brothers, you already know when brothers get into debates, sisters when you get into debates, how many of us open up the book of Allah only to look for a verse to support our position? Right? He says, as for the one who reflects on the Quran only so that he can use what he learned from the Quran to support his position, his statement, his opinion. He said, and this is dangerous. He says, in refuge to short with Allah, he said, because in reality this person is only following his desire. He only wanted to support his position. He's not looking to seek any guidance. He says, لكن من تدبره متيقنا أنه إذا دل على شيء فإنه سيأخذ به ولو خالف رأيه. He says, but if he truly was to reflect on it with conviction, with absolute certainty, أنه إذا دل على شيء, that if it indicates or he gets something from it, right, then really he should take it even if it as an opposition to his opinion. فهذا هو الذي يوفق. This is the one who will be granted tawfiq. Right? ويتبين له طريق حق, and the truth will be made clear to him. He says, ولا يمكن أن يخفى عليه أبدا. And it's not possible that something will be hidden from him. It wouldn't be nothing obscure from him. So you find many people talking about I read the book of Allah, and they leave from reading the book of Allah and it didn't increase them a man in nothing. You know in the Quran, Allah Jalla wa'ala says over and over, proving that Iman increases and decreases. He says that for the believers, he keep mentioning this concept, that when a surah is revealed or ayat is revealed, it increases them in Iman. Have you ever picked up the book of Allah and your Iman have not been boosted? If you picked up the book of Allah and you have not gained anything before you shut that book, what was you in the book of Allah doing? Was you reflecting? Was you seeking guidance? What were you doing? If you read the book of Allah at all and you haven't gained any information, any benefit whatsoever, it didn't increase you in anything. Do you understand that? It's a problem. If you shut that book, I don't care if you read one ayat, I don't care if you read a half a page or 2 pages or you flick through it, if you ain't grabbing nothing from the book of Allah, you understand? Pay attention to what you're reading it for. If you're not grabbing nothing from the book of Allah, come on. It's supposed to increase your Iman. I read the book of Allah and I'm still not satisfied. Kaif? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I'm still trying to figure that one out. I read the book of Allah and I'm not satisfied. I was in the book of Allah. I didn't find any answers I'm looking for. I need a job today. I can't find a job, so the brother told me to go look in the book of Allah. I went in the book of Allah and I didn't find nothing to help me out with my job. And you didn't read the ayah where Allah Jalla wa'ala told you, فَبَتَغُوا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الرِّزْقَ. As Allah Jalla wa'ala says, seek with Allah your rizq. What is your rizq? Seek with Allah your rizq. You didn't read that? He said, فَبَتَغُوا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الرِّزْقَ. So with Allah Azza wa Jal. Where do you start at when you want to look for a job? And Allah, with Allah Azza wa Jal. You read the Quran and you didn't get فَبَتَغُوا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الرِّزْقَ. Did you not get that? That he gave you something even way more beneficial than that, because rizq is not restricted to fulus. Okay? It's not restricted to dirham nor gold coins or silver. It's not restricted to monetary money. Okay? Paper and everything like that. Risk covers a lot of things. And there's two, we already went over this before, there are 2 categories of risk, but it's a lot of things that risk cover. So Allah says, فَبَتَغُوا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الرِّزْقِ. Seek risk with Allah. I went into the Quran and I was sad. And I was trying to find something that will lift my spirits. Right? And you went into the book of Allah and then you didn't come back, you didn't come out the book of Allah and your spirits wasn't lifted. You didn't get any, huh? And did you really read the book of Allah? Because Allah Jalla wa'ala says what? He says, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innu al-qulub." It's not the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal brings satisfactions to the hearts. If you read the book of Allah Azza wa Jal and you didn't get nothing in your heart, no satisfaction whatsoever, then you did not read the book of Allah reflecting, you did not go in it seeking, I don't know what you were doing. But if you were reading it correctly, like he said, "Man tadabbar al-Qur'ana taliban lil-huda." Minhu tabayyana lahu tariq al-haqq. That's what he's saying. And Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah is also the same one who said, "I have not found anything that in this dunya that give you more comfort, that give you more comfort, that gives you more relief. I have not found anything besides reading in the book of Allah." That's what he says. So you wonder, why is they making these statements like that, right? They didn't have the iPads or the iPhones and the lot of gadgets that we didn't have, that we got now today, right? They didn't have all of the different stuff of super celebrities and this or that and all that nonsense or distractions, right? So why would he say that, I didn't find nothing greater than reading the book of Allah? This is not our hal. We don't look at the book of Allah like that. That ain't even on the scale. I mean, we'll place it on the shelf. That's the highest the book of Allah will ever get with some of us. A lot of us, the book of Allah will only get to the shelf, right? But it would never get that high inside yourself. You don't even take your time out to learn it. And I'll give you a proof. And I know you're going to beat me up about it. I know you're going to beat me up about this, but this is the truth. You've been Muslim how long? And you don't know Arabic? I'll stop right there. So if the book of Allah was important to you, right? And you've been Muslim how long? And you still don't know Arabic? I'm not talking about knowing Arabic how to speak. I'm talking about knowing how to read. You don't know Arabic how to read, to gain some fahm, to understand? You don't know Arabic how to read the book of Allah? You haven't read the book of Allah. Oh, I read the Noble. That's not the book of Allah. Let's stop again. I read the Noble. That's not the book of Allah. I know a lot of brothers going to get me up. But go and turn to your front page of the book of the Noble. All right? And I want you to read what it says in here. It says the interpretation is a tarjama. All right? And if you understand tarjama and you understand tafsir, they're two different things. But if you understand tarjama, it's the interpretation of the meaning of the Noble Quran. Meaning is based off those two scholars, their understanding of pulling what they can so they can give you some idea of what's in the Quran. But you have not read the Quran until you read that Arabic. You understand? That's when you have read the book of Allah. And most of us don't take this stuff in consideration. If you're not making any preparations, then you're not taking something serious. You understand? The Quran is a roadmap to paradise. The Quran is a book that tells you about your Lord. The Quran is the way you're going to find out about your Lord. The Quran is all of these things in one. But the Quran is in the top thing in your house. The Quran is in the top thing in your life. The Quran is in the top thing in your heart. The Quran is in the top thing on your mind. So when you hear words or lines of poetry like we recite in the night, it must don't mean nothing to you. Why would it mean something to you? Because the Quran is not in the highest esteem. You rather listen to what so-and-so said, student Fulan said, scholar so-and-so said, this person said. This is what you rather hear. And that touch you. Or you rather listen to musician so-and-so said, celebrity so-and-so said, athlete so-and-so said, actor said. All of this resonate with you. Ah, you heard that? I mean, some of us would give tafsir. I mean, some of us would do tadabbur. I mean, we will reflect on a song. Wallahi tallahi, wallahi, I'm not lying. Somebody will play a song and they will reflect on it, like do some ponder. Like, you see how the word play with that? You see the meaning of that? And you be like, yo, akhi, what about the book of Allah? You couldn't get that from the book of Allah? Guess what? I got a news flash for you. While you was reflecting on those verses that you were just reflecting on, you get no fa'idah whatsoever for that. And on top of that, you might incur the wrath of Allah Azza wa Jalla, because if it's wrong and it promotes that which is wrong, you can't do it. But if you got the book of Allah, not only is the book of Allah so beneficial, the Prophet ﷺ has informed us from the hadith of Abdullah bin Mas'ud that every letter that you recite is 10 rewards and more. Did you see that? Name me one book right now that you can do that with. Every letter you read is 10 rewards. So you just even if you didn't even understand it, right? If you didn't understand what you was reading, but you were just reading the letters, 10 reward, 10 reward, 10 reward. Ain't no book like it, man. So why isn't it the top thing in your life? Why you don't know it like you know all of the stats? of the game? Why you don't know it like you know all of this, of the players? How you don't know it like you know all of the songs? Why you don't know it? How come the ayats is not flowing from your mouth? Why is it difficult for you? من تدبر القرآن طالبا للهدى منه تبين له الحق. If you want to know the truth of things, you want it to be made clarified to you, then you're going to begin with the book of Allah. That's what you're going to begin with. Last but not least, he says at the end, he says إنما يكفى علينا إما من قصور علمنا أو تقصيرنا. So what happened is, he says, if you do not find, and its treasure is not open for you, there are things hidden within the Quran and you're not able to get to what you want. Basically everything I was just saying, pretty much, he's saying it's either going to be due to the deficiency of your knowledge, henceforth you didn't learn the Arabic, henceforth you didn't learn usul tafsir, henceforth you didn't learn tafsir, henceforth you didn't learn all of these different things that will help you in acquiring and ascertaining and opening up the book of Allah and really getting some benefit from it. He said, or it's due to our own deficiencies. Or the point might be we just don't even want guidance. And he said what this means is, other words, that we don't want guidance is that we learn something and we don't even implement it. He said this is something that you see. This is appearing. This is appearing. This is a proof against, me as well. If we learn something or we know something, وَلَمْ نَعْمَلْ بِهِ, and we don't act according to it, he says, وَجَاهِلُ هِنَيْدٍ خَيْرٌ مِنْهُ. Pay attention to this. If you learn something, you or I or anybody learn anything, do you hear this? Alright? If you learn something and you do not act on it, then the person who you think is jahil is better than you. You understand that? The one who you call jahil, the one who you call ignorant, is better than you. Why is he better than you? Why is she better than you? Because you know something and you chose not to act off of it. So as if you don't know anything. So that person is better than you. That's exactly what he's saying. He said, لِأَنَّنَا إِذَا عَلِمْنَا شَيْءٍ قَامَتْ عَلَيْنَا حُجَّةً. Because if we learn something, then what happens? Now the proof can be used against us if we don't act on it. It only can't be used against us if we act on it. He says, وَلَكِنْ نَسَلَ اللَّهَ أَنْ يُعِينَنَا. He said, however, we ask Allah to aid us and support us. Ameen. He says, كل يوم نتكلم عن مثل هذا. He said, every day we talk about the likes of this. ولا ننظر شيئا, and we don't see anything. لكن على إنسان يتقي الله ما استطاع. And we say, it's upon a person, each person, to fear Allah Jalla wa'ala to the best of his or her ability. And that's what we wanted to bring in tonight's talk. Hopefully you took the following benefits with you. First and foremost, how the Salaf behave with Ramadan. They were prepared 6 months before. Preparing for it is to free up that time. That's why they prepare, so they can free up that time. Another benefit that we learned today, inshallah ta'ala, or this evening talk, we learned that what? Make dua, the importance of dua. Ask Allah so that you can reach the month of Ramadan. Then once you reach the Ramadan, then don't stop. Ask Allah to aid you so you can carry out good deeds in the month of Ramadan. And once you do that, and at the end, ask Allah to accept your deeds. Another thing we benefit is not to be amazed with ourselves, not to be amazed with anything we do. We should be worried every time that we do a good deed. We should be worried whether Allah is going to accept that good deed or doesn't. This is how the Salaf used to be. We benefited from that, from the Kalam of Sheikh Fuzan. Also, what we did, we also learned something else. Then we learned that the statement of Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyyah, rahmatullah ta'ala alayh, that was a beautiful statement, and I will repeat it again. فتدبر القرآن إمرنت الهدى فالعلم تحت تدبر القرآن, where he says, reflect upon the book of Allah if you want to be guided, for all knowledge lies under reflecting upon the book of Allah. Also we learned that what? The scholars, from them is Imam Abdurrahman al-Sa'di, as his student Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymeen mentioned, they will have a specific book for the month of Ramadan. Now you see why we call this title, or why we named this talk, the notebook of Imam Sa'di, that he had for Ramadan. So if you want to do, you can do that. It's not obligatory, but you can do that. Look at the benefits that came from it. He's a mufassir. He was writing down a lot of stuff, refined and reflecting on the book of Allah. We also learned about the statement that goes along with the statement of Ibn Taymiyyah, the two conditions that was along with it. Alhamdulillah, we covered a lot of benefit tonight. May Allah Jalla wa'ala place us on the scales, allow us to get closer to Him with the knowledge that we learned, and allow us to begin to prepare for Ramadan by making the dua, and allow us to have that notebook. Get that notebook, open up. When you start going over some Quran, I don't care if you're reading it, start reading some tafsir, especially for us who read, for those of us who don't know Arabic, and for those of us who are reading the transliteration or the translation of the meaning of the Quran, we need to start going and getting some of these English tafsirs. They got a lot of information online. You can look for Ibn Kathir, and also they're translating Ibn Sa'di. You can look for a lot of, if you have Tafsir Jalalain, I don't know if that's in English, but you have a lot of different ones. Start using them to help you, support you understanding the Book of Allah. Write it down. Okay, I know a lot of people say, well, I got notebooks, I got recording devices, I got not notebooks, but I got recording devices, I got audio, I got all of these different things. Yeah, they good, but the best thing, trust me, it's nothing like writing it down. I'm gonna tell you, when you write something down, it sticks. All right, you want something to stick, write it down. Trust me, you writing it down, it helps it keeps it in there, it keeps it in your breast. So you want to try to write it down. Same thing like we're reading. Ain't nothing like reading, touching that crisp book, opening up, reading, because it's going to benefit you. You're getting the information right there without having to worry about being distracted by everything else that's on the device. We ask Allah Jalla wa'ala to accept us. Whatever we said that was incorrect in our translations for myself, and the shaitan, whatever says correct from Allah Jalla wa'ala. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallahu khairan.